Under a heavy storm, lightning strikes a forest filled with fallen warriors while a lone survivor stands among the bodies. Coughing up blood, the wounded warrior counts 64 enemies that he has already taken down on his own. Suddenly, a mysterious man appears, clapping his hands while praising the hero for surviving such a brutal beating. Glaring at his opponent, the young man stays silent as the dark forces slowly surround him in the muddy grass. With a manic laugh, the villain mocks his special sword technique and wonders if it can save him from imminent death. Even with deep injuries, the hero claims they know nothing, which the arrogant leader considers a cheap bluff. Multiple masked assassins jump from above with sharp blades to finish off the weakened warrior once and for all. Unleashing a massive slash, the protagonist easily defeats the new attackers and updates his count to 67. After wiping out half of the enemy elites, the hero listens as the villain welcomes the massive sacrifice. Descending from the stormy sky, a powerful fighter finally lands right in front of the exhausted hero. Bringing along a group of elite soldiers, the evil leader prepares to put an end to this long and tiring battle. With a wicked smile, he points out that the heavily injured warrior can no longer use his legendary martial arts. Tired of the talking, the protagonist simply tells them all to attack together so he can get this over with quickly. Infuriated by this immense disrespect, the villain screams the hero's name as his anger completely boils over. Charging forward with a fast leap, the commander aims a deadly strike while mocking his opponent's final moments. Before his blade can even connect, a sudden counterattack slashes right through the arrogant leader's face. The wounded warrior coldly wonders if his enemy actually knew anything about the legendary sword style he used. As lightning flashes, the boss falls dead to the wet ground, bringing the total victim count to 68. Leaving a trail of blood behind him, the young warrior slowly drags his body away to find a safe place to rest. Weakly holding his bleeding side, the warrior can barely keep his balance. Falling face first onto the dirt path, his body finally gives out from the intense exhaustion. While staring at the sky, he realizes that fighting 120 enemies was simply too much. With his vision fading, he silently apologizes to a girl named Young Mei for breaking his promise. Gripping a secret book tightly against his chest, the young man prepares himself for the very end. His only real regret is leaving without making his enemies feel any true remorse for what they did. Lying helpless in the middle of a quiet forest path, a long trail of blood marks his final steps. Suddenly, a small purple flower appears in his field of vision as someone approaches his body. Standing right beside him is a young boy who looks completely shocked by the bloody scene. Looking up at the child, the wounded fighter weakly asks what kind of grass he is holding. He warns the kid never to eat that plant because its strong numbing poison will end his life. The boy stands frozen in absolute silence while the cold wind blows leaves through the dark night. The kid keeps digging the dirt while the dying warrior surprisingly chews on the poisonous plant. Gulping in fear, the boy watches the man eat the herb before the warrior asks for his name. Looking down with a quiet voice, the young boy reveals that his name is Iojasio. Realizing how calm the kid is about death, the fighter guesses the boy has already buried his parents. Holding out his legendary manual, the dying master tells him to stop digging and take the book. Rejecting the offer immediately, the boy says he does not want it and asks for food instead. He realistically points out that strong masters just end up dying a painful death anyway. Hearing these surprisingly wise words, the old warrior cannot help but burst into loud laughter. He fully agrees that hiding your true strength is the only way to survive in this harsh world. The young boy simply stares back at him with a confused look on his face. Despite his heavy wounds, the brave warrior still tries his best to stay conscious. The young boy stands near his shallow pit while observing the mysterious stranger with a calm look. Stepping forward, Softball Kid uses all his strength to support the massive body of the bleeding man. Together they slowly walk away from the battleground and pass beneath the giant forest trees. Carrying the giant fighter on his back is extremely difficult because of the many arrows sticking out. Patting his shoulder, the master remarks that the skinny kid actually possesses a surprisingly strong physique. He also notices how incredibly bright the child's eyes look despite living such a difficult life. Smiling warmly, the warrior proposes that the young boy should learn his secrets to become a hidden master. The kid looks completely bored and instantly rejects the offer because he has no interest in martial arts. He explains that he is only staying because the dying man reminds him of his father who abandoned him. Hearing this sad story makes the old warrior silent as he looks down at his new little companion. Reaching out with a bloody bandaged hand, the hero gently asks the young boy to come a bit closer. Pulling him into a tight hug, the master mentions that the boy reminds him of his own beloved daughter. While his warm blood drips, the warrior whispers that he wishes the child could have been his real son. Feeling the warm embrace of the dying hero, the lonely boy is suddenly reminded of his father's touch. Feeling the boy hold him, the dying warrior suddenly goes completely limp and falls right over. The strong fighter hits the dirt dead, leaving the young kid completely frozen with fear. Standing over the lifeless body, the boy looks down at the mysterious manual left behind. 15 years pass in the blink of an eye, and the young boy is now a grown man practicing his sword skills. He spent all his time training tirelessly with the manual left behind by the deceased warrior. Unfortunately, most of the advanced techniques in the secret guide were way too difficult to grasp. To make it work, he simply skipped those complicated moves and changed the style to match his own body. Since he also needed to learn internal energy, he decided to look for answers in a nearby tavern. After threatening an old drunkard, he learned a breathing trick only to find out it was for grandpas. This weird training eventually leads to his sword snapping in half, and he realizes he is still a novice. Even with a broken blade, the young man keeps polishing the basic moves he actually understands. He eventually masters a flashy technique that makes him look like an absolute beast when sheathing his sword. Since the style changed so much, he decides to call his modified version the Tenfold Soul Training Sword. Drawing his sword, the hero unleashes a swift strike at a massive tree to test his newly modified style. Believing his power is absolutely trash, he wonders if raising his arm more would make him look cooler. Giving up on his pose, the young warrior simply starts thinking about having a warm bowl of rice soup instead. Without even realizing it, his single casual slash has sliced the giant tree completely in half behind him. Later, we see his boots stepping onto a grand red carpet while he reflects on what a true master really is. Ordinary people rarely meet such experts because a single master has the power to easily shake entire nations. Yet those same legendary fighters are currently lining up just to clear a path for him to walk through. Every single expert bows their head in deep respect as the young man calmly strolls through the massive hall. Despite looking like an absolute beast, the young man is actually still a complete novice. He decides to visit Fort Manryong to sign up for a job because his lack of skills is a blessing in disguise. The busy registrar asks for his name, but the young warrior just stares back with a totally blank expression. Grabbing the ink brush, he knows that landing this job means he will not have to beg for food anymore. With a steady hand, he slowly writes down his actual name on the official paper. The registrar gets shocked because normal warriors are usually illiterate, and he wonders if the boy is from some famous sect. Smiling secretly, the hero reveals that those letters and his fake sword style are the only things he actually knows how to write. The old man rubs his chin and admits that he has never heard of such a strange martial arts style before. The old man laughs and says there is no problem at all with his registration. He then politely instructs the newcomer to head over to Blue Room 19. The young warrior is secretly thrilled because he can finally eat regular meals without any worries. This Blue Room is the perfect middle ground for average people who are not total masters. Walking down the hall, he realizes this place is actually super comfortable to live in. His main plan is to just eat his fill and escape before the sparring matches even begin. Catching a delicious scent in the air, he notices that the food smells incredible. Entering the dining area, he spots some fellow warriors sharing a table in the corner. The other men immediately glare at him with very aggressive expressions on their faces. He sighs because these troublesome guys look like they will only cause him a giant headache. The guide cheerfully gestures for him to enter and make himself comfortable. Sitting down at the table, he keeps a close watch on his new companions while his drink is poured. One of the tough fighters leans in closely to ask for his actual name. Smiling calmly, the hero introduces himself as Io Jaseo to keep his identity hidden. Knowing he is just a beginner, the young warrior makes sure not to let any of his weakness show on his face. Placing his empty cup back on the table, the muscular fighter nods slowly, as if he is carefully judging the newcomer. The spiked hair guy introduces himself as Sim Gil and points to his bald friend who is named Sogu-chi. Before drinking from his cup, the bald warrior suddenly pauses and prepares to ask a very important question. Looking closely at the hero, he directly asks which martial arts sect the young man belongs to. The protagonist quickly lies by claiming he is just a wanderer who learned some basic family sword techniques. Sipping his drink, the bald fighter proudly states that they actually come from the famous region of Chang'an. Recognizing the area, the hero immediately asks if they belong to the legendary Jongnam sect to show off his knowledge. Seeing the two men look incredibly pleased by his guess, the protagonist smiles because his plan is working perfectly. He decides to gain their absolute trust by mentioning a highly respected master from their specific hometown. The young man starts telling a dramatic story about how their famous clan defeated a powerful demon in battle. He praises their Grand Master with an exaggerated expression to make his fake admiration sound extremely convincing. Hearing their master praised so highly, the spiked hair warrior laughs loudly and claps his hands in absolute joy. The bald fighter is so happy that he immediately offers to buy more drinks just to hear the rest of the epic story. Laughing together like old buddies, the young man realizes that making friends is actually the easiest thing in the world. The young man smiles and decides that keeping a friendly attitude is key to surviving here without any drama. Stepping outside, the hero enjoys the beautiful sunny weather while walking through the busy courtyard of the fortress. Looking around, his eyes widen as he realizes just how massive and wealthy this entire place actually is. He spots a huge sparring arena where fighters are training hard to prepare for their upcoming matches. A bright grin appears on his face when he realizes he can basically get free food and lodging for an entire month. While observing several highly skilled fighters walk past him, he decides that their business is none of his concern. Whistling a happy tune, the young man starts dreaming about having a delicious bowl of hot meat soup for his lunch. A sudden gust of wind blows some leaves around, and he pauses because he catches a very pleasant fragrance in the air. Standing right there, a young red-haired woman glares at him and demands to know why he entered her private residence. Screaming internally, the protagonist quickly puts on a polite smile and apologizes for his massive mistake. He politely explains that he wandered in by mistake and tries to make a quick exit while she just stares back silently. Suddenly, she calls out to him and asks for his name, which immediately makes the young man panic. Reflecting on his 25 years of life, he knows getting involved with this girl is a terrible idea. She sneaks up right behind him and asks if he is one of the strong masters applying for the fort. He admits that he is moderately strong, so she starts clapping her hands with pure joy. The hero pretends to listen politely while secretly planning a way to slip away when she is not looking. His jaw drops when she suddenly asks him to spar because fighting her is the last thing he wants to do. Trying to back away, his foot accidentally hits a small rock and he ends up in a perfect combat stance just to stay balanced. Seeing his cool pose, the excited girl thinks he is a brave warrior ready to accept her challenge. The protagonist waves his hands frantically to explain the massive misunderstanding and avoid any trouble. Ignoring his words, she unleashes a burst of energy and charges forward to strike first. The protagonist is shocked to feel a massive wave of real internal energy coming right from her hand. Before he can even react, the fiery girl lands a direct palm strike straight onto his chest. Pain surges through his body, and the young man desperately fights to keep himself from passing out. The pure force of her powerful attack slides him back several feet across the stone courtyard. Clutching his aching chest, he realizes that his entire reserve of energy has been completely drained by this single hit. Meanwhile, the red-haired fighter looks at him with a completely dumbfounded expression on her face. She is absolutely amazed because nobody has ever taken her strongest strike directly and remained standing. Staring at his calm face, she is now completely convinced that the young man is actually a legendary master. Standing silently with his back turned, the hero desperately plans to sneak away before he collapses on the ground. Suddenly, his body reaches its absolute limit and a massive nosebleed begins pouring down his face. Seeing this, the girl celebrates because she believes her secret martial arts style actually worked on a master. Quickly covering his nose, he decides to praise her incredible strength just to keep her from attacking him again. To help him out, she kindly reaches into her pocket and offers him a big piece of cotton to stop the bleeding. Smiling proudly, the girl explains that her unique palm style is specifically designed to make the opponent nosebleed. Hearing this ridiculous explanation, the young man freaks out because he realizes he just crossed paths with a total psycho. She keeps studying his face and assumes he only took a minor hit since he managed to survive her ultimate strike. Clapping her hands with excitement, she suddenly notices the weapon on his waist and realizes he is actually a swordsman. Still wiping his nose, the poor boy can only stand there in complete silence while praying for a quick escape. With a crazy look in her eyes, she happily suggests going to grab her blade so they can have a proper sword duel next. Holding his forehead, the exhausted warrior feels another massive headache coming on after hearing her insane proposal. Screaming internally, the protagonist realizes that he genuinely messed with the absolute worst person in the fortress.